HOA VP trespassed on my ranch and threatened my dog's. Cops hauled her off in cuffs. Have you ever wondered what happens when a power-hungry HOA vice president picks a fight with the wrong rancher? In the rolling hills of rural Montana, where the sky stretches wide and the only sounds are the rustle of wind through the grass and the occasional bark of a loyal dog, Sarah Thompson lived a quiet life on her 40-acre ranch. She'd moved there to escape the chaos of city life, trading skyscrapers for starry nights and neighbors for open fields. Her two German shepherds, Max and Luna, were her constant companions, guarding the property with fierce loyalty. But peace, it seems, is never guaranteed when an HOA is involved, even one that technically shouldn't have jurisdiction over her land. Sarah's ranch sat just outside the boundaries of the Whispering Pines Homeowners Association, a gated community of manicured lawns and self-important board members. She'd bought the land free and clear, with no HOA covenants attached, a fact she'd double-checked with her lawyer before signing the deed. Yet, from the moment she moved in, the HOA's vice president, Karen Whitaker, seemed determined to make Sarah's life miserable. Karen, a woman in her late 50s with a penchant for pearl necklaces and passive-aggressive emails, had a reputation for ruling Whispering Pines like her personal fiefdom. She'd send letters to residents for minor infractions: grass too long, mailboxes slightly askew, and had once fined a family for planting unauthorized roses. But Sarah wasn't part of their community, and she made that clear every time Karen tried to assert her authority. Started small. Karen would drive her golf cart to the edge of Sarah's property, peering over the fence with binoculars, scribbling notes about unsightly tire tracks or the noise pollution from Max and Luna's playful barking. Sarah ignored her, chalking it up to a busybody with too much time on her hands. But then came the letter's official HOA stationery, demanding Sarah cease and desist from letting her dogs roam her own land, claiming they were a threat to community safety. Sarah laughed it off, tossing the letters into a drawer. She wasn't in the HOA. Karen had no power here, or so she thought. One crisp June morning in 2025, Sarah was sipping coffee on her porch when she heard Max and Luna snarling near the back fence. She stepped outside to see Karen, in her signature pastel blazer, standing on Sarah's side of the property line, holding a can of pepper spray and shouting at the dogs. "Back off, you mangy mutts, or I'll make sure you're put down." Karen's voice was shrill, her face red with fury. Sarah's heart pounded as she sprinted toward the scene, her boots kicking up dust. "Karen, what the hell are you doing on my land?" she yelled. Karen spun around, her eyes narrowing. "Your dogs are a menace, and I'm here to protect my community. I've already called animal control, and they'll be here to take these beasts away." Sarah's blood ran cold. Max and Luna were family, not just pets, and the thought of them being taken or worse ignited a fire in her chest. She stepped closer, her voice low and steady. "You're trespassing. Get off my property. Now." Karen didn't budge. Instead, she raised the pepper spray, pointing it not at the dogs but at Sarah. "Don't test me, Ms. Thompson. I have the full backing of the HOA, and we'll make your life miserable if you don't comply." That's when Sarah noticed a man standing a few yards behind Karen, partially hidden by the trees. He was wiry, with a nervous demeanor, clutching a clipboard and a camera. "Who's that?" Sarah demanded, pointing. Karen smirked. "That's Greg, our new HOA compliance officer. He's documenting your violations." Sarah's eyes narrowed. Violations? On her own ranch? This was war. Sarah didn't waste another second. She pulled out her phone and called the sheriff's department, her voice calm but firm as she reported a trespasser threatening her and her dogs. Karen scoffed, clearly believing her HOA title made her untouchable. "Go ahead, call the cops," she taunted. "They'll side with me once they see the evidence of your negligence." Greg, the compliance officer, shifted uncomfortably, avoiding Sarah's gaze. There was something off about him, but Sarah couldn't place it. Not yet. The truth began to unravel when Deputy Ramirez arrived, his patrol car kicking up gravel as he pulled into Sarah's driveway. Karen immediately launched into a tirade, waving her arms and claiming Sarah's dogs had terrorized the neighborhood even though the nearest house was half a mile away. She pointed to Greg, who handed over his clipboard with photos of Max and Luna taken from inside Sarah's property. Deputy Ramirez's brow furrowed as he studied the images. "Ma'am," he said to Karen, "these photos were taken on Ms. Thompson's land. How did you get them?" Karen's confidence faltered, but she doubled down. We have every right to inspect properties that affect our community's value, she snapped. Sarah stepped forward, her voice cutting through the tension like a knife. My ranch isn't part of your HOA. I have the deed to prove it. And those photos? They're evidence of your trespassing. Deputy Ramirez turned to Greg, who was now sweating profusely. You took these? The deputy asked. Greg stammered, I was just following orders. That's when the twist came. Greg, it turned out, wasn't just some random HOA lackey. He was Karen's nephew, hired under the table to enforce her rules without any official credentials. Sarah had done her homework months ago, digging into the HOA's public records after Karen's first letter. She discovered Karen had a history of bending rules, including funneling HOA funds to family members for dubious services. Greg's presence wasn't just a power play, it was part of Karen's scheme to intimidate Sarah into submission, possibly to force her to sell her land to a developer tied to the HOA board. Sarah handed Deputy Ramirez a folder with her deed and the HOA's boundary map, which clearly showed her ranch was outside their jurisdiction. The confrontation escalated as Karen's lies unraveled. She screamed about her authority, her voice echoing across the fields, but Deputy Ramirez wasn't having it. Ma'am, you're on private property without permission, threatening the owner and her animals. That's trespassing and harassment. He turned to Greg, who was now practically shaking. And you, sir, are complicit. Karen's face turned purple as she realized her plan was crumbling. She made a final, desperate move, lunging toward Max with the pepper spray. Sarah reacted instinctively, grabbing Karen's wrist and twisting it just enough to make her drop the can. Max and Luna barked furiously but stayed at Sarah's side, trained to protect without attacking. Deputy Ramirez called for backup, and within minutes, another patrol car arrived. Karen's protests grew louder as the second deputy handcuffed her, reading her rights while she shrieked about lawsuits and her untouchable status. Greg, meanwhile, spilled everything, admitting he'd been promised a cut of the HOA's fines for helping Karen fabricate violations. The deputies escorted both to the patrol cars, Karen's pearl necklace glinting in the sunlight as she was led away, her reign of terror finally over. As the dust settled, Sarah stood on her porch, Max and Luna at her feet, watching the patrol cars disappear down the road. The victory wasn't just her, it was a triumph for everyone who'd ever been bullied by an HOA drunk on power. Word spread quickly through Whispering Pines, and by the next HOA meeting, Karen's allies on the board were ousted, replaced by residents who valued fairness over control. Sarah even got a surprise visitor. Mrs. Delaney, an elderly neighbor from the edge of the community, who brought homemade cookies and a confession. She'd overheard Karen plotting to target Sarah's ranch and had quietly tipped off the sheriff about Karen's shady dealings. That small act of courage had helped seal Karen's fate. In the weeks that followed, Sarah's ranch became a symbol of resistance. Neighbors stopped by, sharing their own stories of Karen's overreach, and Sarah found herself at the heart of a quiet rebellion against HOA tyranny. She didn't set out to be a hero, but standing her ground had inspired others to question the rules that bound them. The open fields of her ranch, once a target, now felt like a sanctuary not just for her and her dogs, but for anyone who believed in fighting for what's right. So, what do you think? Was Sarah justified in standing up to Karen's abuse of power, or should she have tried to resolve things differently? Share your thoughts. Have you ever faced an overzealous HOA, and how did you handle it?